If we arrived at this meeting and then somebody opened a door from a supply closet and Volodymyr Zelensky walked out and sat down and Trump said, "You guys talk, I'll be right outside this door," that would be a victory.
Hi, everyone. This is Pivot from New York Magazine and the Vox Media Podcast Network. I'm Kara Swisher. Welcome back to Scot-Free August. This is possibly the most badass day of Scot-Free August. My co-host and I are the Al Pacino and Robert De Niro of lesbian journalists, respected, feared, and often confused for one another because of our hair, our fantastic haircuts, let me just say. Welcome to the host of MSNBC's The Rachel Maddow Show, Rachel Maddow.
Oh, Kara, I'm so glad. When we made that decision to go bulk at the barbershop where we would always go 2 for 1, I just think it was great for both of us. I mean, we were both 24. Who could have foreseen that it would have been the start of our paths in life?
Right. And we often dress like each other, too. And people are always like, "Are you Rachel Maddow?" No, I'm not tall enough. People don't know Rachel's quite tall.
That's the thing. That's the secret. That helps us twin in a way that will help us ultimately commit great crimes.
That is correct.
Because we will be the alibi for one another.
We should do crimes. Should we solve crimes or do crimes?
Yes.
Both.
Yes. Yes, Kara. Yes.
Yes, all the things. We have so much to talk about. This is so good. This is, everybody, let me just say, we're going to gay it up for you here a little bit. But we have a lot to talk about. But how is it going on your show? You're back to once a week. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm once a week, Monday nights on MSNBC. And then I spend every other day of the week working on stuff that people can't see yet. And so it seems like I'm doing nothing, but actually I'm working harder than I've ever worked.
So you're not lazy.
I'm not lazy.
No. So you work one day a week. And can I just ask, I'm just curious, how do you plan that day? Would you do it on Sunday? I was trying to think, when do you plan it and how do you decide? Because it's the one day. You're like the Jon Stewart does the same thing, the one day, both Monday.
I read all week. And then Sunday is a full bore, like 10 or 12 hour work day when I'm like reading intensively and prepping and making decisions, including about guests and stuff. Although I don't like to pre-plan guests before the day of the show if I don't have to. I don't.
Right, because you want it to be fresh.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to do a week in review. I'm trying to do a good here's your Monday newscast.
Right.
And so I'm never great at like lining up the big guest for the big get interview weeks in advance. I just don't do that. So, but I read all day and then Monday I work all day, and it's not that different from when I was the prep. Time is not that different from when I was doing 5 days a week. It's just that my whole Sunday is dedicated as well.
Do you feel like you went from 1 day a week to 5 during the first 100 days of the presidency?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you need to come back and do more? I know a lot of your viewers think that.
I mean, I think doing the 100 days was the right thing to do. I think a lot changed in our country very rapidly over those first 100 days, and I was glad to be there every day for it. I also think it was, MSNBC kind of signaling to the audience like, hey, this is not a normal presidential transition. This is potentially, if this is going to be a transition from one kind of government and one kind of country into another, we need to cover it in a way that is not pretending that this is normal. And so I like the instinct at the company to ask me to come back and do that, to signal that this is a special sort of time, I think was correct. But I don't want to do 5 days a week, and I won't. So and they don't want me to. They've moved on. So
because they moved on, they have gotten more people. But do you ever feel like, oh my God, something happens and I got to get in there? Or
for sure. And and I guest on other people's shows, and if we ever tip over into special coverage, I'm able to come back at any time and lead that stuff. So I think it was hard to arrive at the system that we're in. We had to iterate a bunch of sort of different attempts at it before we arrived at this. But I think we're in the right place. I think this is stable and sustainable, and this is going to be what it's going to be like for the foreseeable future.
Right. Now, may I ask you, are you excited about your spinoff of Versant? What a great name.
Versant. Talk to your doctor about.
Results may vary. You could have a rash.
In terms of the practical impact of it, it's been all kind of upside so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hiring. What other news organization is hiring tons of reporters and correspondents and editors? And we're standing up this whole news gathering operation, which was well-funded as part of the spin. And in the end, once that is stood up, we will no longer have to compete with NBC News's properties for the news gathering, the product of the news gathering organization, which we otherwise had to. I mean, if we're all covering the same outbreak of war or whatever it is, if we're competing with Nightly and the Today Show and Meet the Press, and it's the NBC news gathering organization, we're always going to get whatever's left over. In this case, it's all, we can apply our own instincts, our own queries, our own priorities to getting stuff that we need from reporters and correspondents. And so it's gonna be better once that's all stood up.
Yeah. I like the cut of your jib here because half the people, I like that expression. I like to say it a lot. It sounds like
what is
I like the cut of your jib.
I didn't even know I had a jib.
Everyone has a jib, Rachel.
Where
it's a sailing metaphor. A jib. Oh. Do you ever sail? No, obviously you don't. A jib. No. It's a jib.
More of a rowboat type.
I like rowboats too. When I was in, I went out with someone and they bought me a rowboat once, and we called it a relation dinghy. But it's not a relationship. Anyway, thank you. I'm here all week. One of the things I think is exciting, actually, I've been doing a few shows on the podcast about what works in media now versus the whole doomness of it. And I had Oliver Darcy on, I had Katie Drummond from Wired, I had a bunch of different people on it. And the whole idea was that things are working, like whether it's Mehdi Hassan, even on the right, whether you like her or not, Megyn Kelly, there's all this exciting kind of stuff. And one of the MSNBC people either split into two groups, people who are sort of, this is the end kind of thing, or this is an opportunity to be entrepreneurial, which I think you're talking about, right? And it's an opportunity to make things people want.
First of all, we make a ton of money. Second of all, we're spinning off with a huge standalone, newly built news gathering organization that is designed specifically for our purposes and nothing else. We have an incredibly loyal, very large audience, and we're universally platformed on a device called the television, which Americans use despite the media reports to the contrary. And so I just feel like I'm super, super happy to see, in particular, the success of some of the people you just described. Like Wired has just been killing it.
Amazing.
Oliver Darcy doing his status media stuff is great. It's better than anybody else who's doing the media beat from any of the legacy news organizations.
That's because he's not just writing down what the big say.
Exactly. And that is forcing, I actually think it's forcing media reporting in legacy news organizations to kind of up their game a little bit because he's so scrappy and good at it. And I think there's a lot that's positive. The business side of it is a challenge for everybody, but it's also unique to everybody. And MSNBC on that side has a bunch of unique advantages. We're in a spin that is very well funded, that is, once it's going to be public shares eventually when Versant does that. That means that's going to sort of lock into a system where there's several years where they can't, do anything dramatic like sell us or anything like that. But right now we make a lot of money.
Time is not yet.
No, we make a lot of money. We have a big audience, and we're growing substantively in terms of what we can offer the audience. I just think that's nothing to sneeze at, and I'm excited to see how it develops.
Good, because I think that's a good attitude. I think if you sit around and doom scroll about your industry, they're just not true. There's all kinds of entrepreneurial stuff, and it gives you the opportunity, if you pull away from bigger organizations, to like, you have to make stuff people want. Anyway, speaking of...
Before we move on from that. Okay. You, yourself, are a media mogul, Kara Swisher.
That's what I call myself.
But what do you feel like you've figured out what makes the most sense for you in terms of owning stuff and multi-platforms and the kind of partnerships that you have?
Well, Rachel, if I were advised, I helped Dave Jorgensen leave the Washington Post because he's the one who makes all those videos, and he also was on the podcast because he's different. He's doing videos and trying to create a video-oriented, TikTok-oriented media company. Yes, I feel much better. As I often say, I was a terrible employee. I was like, you fucking idiot all the time, and I was tired of saying that to people, especially a certain kind of guy, right? It was often a guy. and sometimes a woman. And I just was like, I'll make what I'll make. And if people want to eat it, they can eat it. Like, and then I get to make all the decisions. I also own everything. If I were you, I would own everything. You do own a lot of your stuff, Rachel, but I would own like everything I make. And that way I can make decisions. And then you partner with people. In my case, it's Fox Media. But, over time, for example, on Pivot, Scott and I have gotten a bigger piece of the pie because it's our pie, right? But it's great to have partners that help you do things like advertising and distribution and producing that you may not want to do or they can do better. And so it creates a really great ecosystem of everyone's interests are aligned. And then,
when you own it, you can make decisions that are both temporally specific and specific in terms of equity and all that other stuff. And control as needed. But you can enter and leave those partnerships while you still own everything.
Right. And that's what I'm advising everybody. Like everyone who, I get a lot of, like, when they wrote that very nice piece in the New York Times about me, which was a little too nice, Rachel, I'll be honest with you. It was a big.
You're the backlash to your own profile?
I'm like, come on. You couldn't find one bad thing. I'll give you a list of people who don't like me. But they're always blind quotes, so they're not any good. I would say one of the things that was important in that piece was getting people inspired. But the reporter came to me and said, who's lovely, Ben Mullen, and he said, I've heard you're being paid to advise people to leave media. Like, I get a fee. I was like, if I got a fee, I'd be so fucking rich. I have like people call me right now on my telephone. I have 7 people who want to leave media and want to try something. And so what I try to do is the ones I think are going to be good, I say, here's what it takes, like a Jim Acosta or whoever. You got to be entrepreneurial. You've got to work harder than you did because it's all for you, right? And I think that's the hard part. And some people who come to me, I'm like, yeah, you should stay where you are. You should stay where you are.
You're giving people the Rosetta Stone here to interpret your advice in future.
I know,
anybody.
But it's only a few people. But, like I just was with Dina Brown, and she's done amazing stuff at her Substack, and I think her writing is better. Paul Krugman, I think, has really come alive. He's suddenly really great. There's all kinds of people. And I think once you find your voice, if it's really good, people will buy it. And you don't have to.
And media is not all one thing. I mean, I have a production company now, in addition to being an employee at MSNBC. But at that production company, I'm not doing cable news. At that production company, I'm doing documentaries, scripted shows. Actually, podcasts are all through MSNBC. So it's the documentaries, scripted shows. I'm producing a play with them, some other stuff, feature films. But that's all. It's all different. So my employee status is podcasts and TV shows at MSNBC, which is all the stuff for which I'm still best known. Everything else that I'm doing, I'm very low on the learning curve, and I'm figuring out how to do it. And I don't know if I will succeed at any of those things, but I'm trying. But I'm doing that on my own steam.
Which one do you like better? Shh, don't tell MSNBC.
I like them both. I'm better at one than I am at the other. I mean,
you're used to it.
Yeah. And so, but I like working at something that I'm not great at and learning. So that's what the problem is that I can't, once you're better at something, it's easier to turn it on and off, to compartmentalize. Now I'm working, now I'm not. When you're not good at something, there's the constant panic about failure, which means you work 24 hours a day, which means your girlfriend gets mad at you.
I've heard, wait a minute. I've heard that. I have that issue with my wife, too. Speaking of Hollywood, I just want to note the New York Times just called my all-time, there's a couple things, and I do want to get into the books you're writing, but my all-time favorite movie, Roadhouse, the best bad movie. I don't know if you know, that's my all-time favorite.
Oh, wow.
Movie, Roadhouse, was Patrick Swayze, not the Jake Gyllenhaal. That was pathetic.
Was the Jake Gyllenhaal is the remake?
The remake.
And was in the Patrick Swayze version, was there also a lot of shirtlessness?
Yes, of course, obviously. Okay. He did Tai Chi in the shirtlessness. Are you kidding? And it was mostly him, by the way. It was not the ladies. There was a lot of shirtless ladies also. But he was the prime piece of beefcake there going on. And I love that movie largely because of the lines like, we can do this the hard way or the easy way. Just stuff like that. Which is, I say that a lot and no one was say
profound.
It's profound.
It's a deep thing. People go, look, where's that in the Bible?
Yes. I love Patrick Swayze. He was such a great fire that I don't understand it myself.
Have you ever seen the amazingly crazy Stars TV show called Hightown, which is about drugs in Provincetown?
Yes, the lesbian. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
So what about the pimp, the terrible, like evil, shirtless pimp character, Swayze.
Love him. Yeah.
And there's no reason in the entire, there's a lot of things about Hightown that are inexplicable, but one of them is that why is the pimp shirtless? Like the pimp is shirtless at night, the pimp is shirtless during the day. I'm convinced the pimp is always shirtless because he is Swayze. Because that is his name.
Patrick Swayze. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, they always take their shirt off.
It's a meta, yes.
Yeah, Tom Cruise always takes his shirt off, too. There's several actors. But in Patrick Swayze's case, I see the point. I get the point. I understand why there's no shirt. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a best bad movie? Or a show you like lately?
I like Hightown, gotta say.
Hightown.
I'm a real old lesbian who doesn't see a lot of movies and stuff. Like my favorite movie is Suddenly, which is an assassination movie starring Frank Sinatra that all takes place in one room and really ought to have been a play. Like
Frank Sinatra.
Like the original
man. Back to Frank Sinatra.
Yes, like that's my era. I love Patton. I love Lawrence of Arabia. Like I'm a lot older than I seem. I was born 74 years old.
Excellent. That is from the beginning, from the get.
From the beginning, I came out nearsighted.
I was 37. Interesting. When I was born, I was like, here's how we're going to do things. But 37 and real bossy. So Suddenly, I'm going to watch that now.
It's
Why
good.
Did you
it's
like
really
it?
good. I like political thrillers is kind of my thing. I like psychological thriller stuff. And, it's great. It's really good. Frank Sinatra actually I loved him in The First Manchurian Candidate.
No, he's great. That's a creepy movie.
So
Angela Lansbury's so good.
Oh, God, she's fantastic.
She's so good.
I love an evil, like a totally like villainous to the core pretty lady.
Pretty lady. Julie Andrews should be a villain. Has she ever been a villain? That's sort of in that genre.
Oh. Hello, right? Julie Andrews fans of the Pivot audience. Tell us
please.
what Julie Andrews ever did.
I'm sure she's listening very closely right now. Although I do have a lot of weird celebrity fans, which is strange. I'm sure you have a million of them. They love the Rachel Maddow. Let me give you one recommendation, which I mentioned every show. See Hunting Wives, please, on Netflix. Do yourself
this
a
is
favor.
a new reality series?
No, it is not. It is a series. Malin Ackerman and Brittany Snow star. And it is about MAGA ladies in Texas who shoot a lot of guns. And they're very Christian and very MAGA and Trumpy. And they dress up in what you'd imagine Texas ladies would dress up in. And they're all lesbians. Let me just Suddenly they take this turn into lesbian. And you're like, but then they do it too much. You're like, stop with the lesbian. Like, there's way too much. And then there's murder.
It's not you just like reading a lesbian vibe into it. They actually, in the show,
no, my friend. No. It's moving towards softcore porn in a way that's really good. I actually was like, you need to stop. We need some more plot here. Like, stop making out, you two. And Malin Ackerman dives into the role like you've never seen.
So when Scott did his last episode of Pivot before Scott Free August, his advice to you and your co-hosts while he was away was he wanted a lot more lesbian content.
There we go.
And now
here
you are.
Here you are.
We've done it. You're bringing me new lesbian content I didn't have.
I'm just telling you. Text me after you watch it, all right? Trust me on this one. All right, we've got a lot to tell. Now we're getting to serious stuff because Trump is having quite a week with his federal takeover of D.C., a review of the Smithsonian and a meeting with Putin. First, I am a huge fan of your work on the 30s and 40s, all the stuff you've done. I just re-listened to Prequel, which I adore, and all the characters. And I assume that's what you're making movies about because there's so many great characters there. We've been hearing Trump using this America First line for years, but it's coming into play more than ever in his second term, as if it's fresh and new. He slapped the label on foreign policy, trade, immigration. He told The Atlantic a few months ago that the America First means whatever he says it does. He said that he was the one that developed it. Obviously, not so. In both Ultra, your podcast, and which you've been on talking about this in your book Prequel. You talk a lot about this and the deep, deep roots of this, what's happening now in the U.S., which we have forgotten about in a lot of ways. So talk a little bit about the backstory and this rhetoric at this moment in time.
So the America First Committee was a real thing. It only existed for about 15 months, but it was 15 really important months. It was from, I think, September of 1940 until December of 41, Pearl Harbor. But they formed, it was one of the largest anti-war organizations ever in the U.S., and they formed to basically try to block FDR from affording any assistance to Britain when Britain was fending off a Nazi invasion. And their basic idea, at least their public-facing idea, was that we were impregnable, we were protected by our oceans, nobody was ever going to attack us, and who cares if the Nazis took all of Europe? Europe kind of sucks anyway.
Why should we give money
to
to them? Why should
we shouldn't give money to them, and if we give any money to them, they're going to plow under every fourth American boy. It'll get us into the war, and we don't want to be in another war after World War I. That was the public-facing line. The problem the America First Committee had is that even as they were huge and they had all these really respectable people associated with them, was founded by the guy who was the heir to the Quaker Oats fortune, they kept slipping into kind of liking the Nazis and blaming everything on the Jews. And the American public eventually came to see that, especially when Charles Lindbergh, who was the most famous man in America, not named Roosevelt, when Lindbergh became their spokesman and started flat out saying, this is just the Jews trying to get us into the war, and the Jews are the big problem in the world. So the America First Committee, has a short, very pungent history. And then what the idea of America First became after that is even worse. After the America First Committee disbanded following Pearl Harbor, we then later got other iterations of that concept, like the America First Party, which in 1944 campaigned explicitly on the promise of deporting and or sterilizing all Jews in America. Mm-hmm. So that's the history of America First, which they're absolutely...
And there were senators that put these things forth, forced sterilization of Jews, of blacks, of things like that. The insidious nature of it, even if it wasn't called America First, was the thing I was thinking of, is the idea that, first of all, there was Nazi infiltration in our country very significantly through Congress and also throughout media and everything else. Yeah. But that it was much more insidious, America First, in a lot of ways, because it had all things attached to it.
Yeah. That phrase, that plowing under every fourth American boy, that was that originated in Berlin, in Goebbels's office, and then it made its way into the speeches of an anti-FDR, America First American politician. And there was a huge, one of the things that Ultra and Prequel are about is this huge multi-million-dollar at the time, which makes it, in 1940s dollars, multi-million-dollar secret Nazi propaganda effort that was shunted through Congress. They used the congressional franking privilege to mail out millions of pieces of Nazi propaganda to American homes using members of the Senate and members of Congress who were on the Nazi payroll in the lead up to World War II. And it's a forgotten history, I think, because of World War II. It seems to that overshadows everything that went before. But we had a big Nazi sympathizing and American fascist movement here in this country that wanted us not to be in that war.
After the war through McCarthy, which is what the second season of Ultra is about, correct?
Yeah,
that
right.
It didn't stop. So this never stopped. This is one of the things that I took away from your book, is that so much as, it begins with Goebbels, who is, I think they had stolen some ideas from us and Jim Crow, mm-hmm. Or borrowed or whatever, and thought that was a great thing. And then they put it back here and continued. That's what the lost history part. The biggest figure, there's two figures in your books that I think are so... McCarthy gets all the attention, right? Always, because he's such a tragic and horrible figure. But two people I thought was Lawrence Dennis, mm-hmm. And O. John Rogge, two mm-hmm. opposites. So similar.
Lawrence Dennis was considered to be the intellectual godfather of American fascism, and he was receiving money from the Germans, and they brought him over to observe Nuremberg rallies and blah, blah, blah. He was connected to all sorts of American politicians and to these fascist movements, including the violent fascist movements. And then O. John Rogge on the other side
of it. And he was also half African-American, correct?
He was secretly black and passed until the very end of his life, while meanwhile, articulating the beautiful fascist American future, right? The Nazis, when you say that they got ideas from Jim Crow, the Nazis used they actually sent an agent to the University of Arkansas Law School to study Jim Crow, the liminal legal
right,
world
how to
in
set
which
it up.
how to set it up, and then they used it as the basis for the Nuremberg laws. The idea of second-class citizenship based on racial purity. So that's on the sort of on the dark side. And then Ojan Ragi was a wunderkind prosecutor who brought sedition charges against Dennis and against these American fascists who were both working with the Nazis and trying to undermine the American war effort.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all but destroyed for having done it, including being fired in the Justice Department for having had the temerity to name the members of Congress who were involved
and write a
in this
report
scheme.
that got lost, really, to history for 25 years.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
And then it didn't matter by then because everyone had moved on, right?
Yeah,
correct.
It wasn't. They didn't publish it till the 60s.
I got to tell you that the resonance to today, that prequel particularly has stuck with me so hard because it feels like there's so many links to today. And one of the things, you have these heroes like Ojan Ragi or Leon Lewis in Los Angeles, Leon Lewis, right, in Los Angeles, who also did all this sort of secret spy work against these people, against these fascists and militias and things like that. Who is that today? And could you link them to what's happening now?
You sound like is there a problem?
Yes, there's a noisy man. But go ahead. Sorry,
a noisy man.
Yeah.
I just saw you kill him with your eyes. It was amazing. I don't think there are exact parallels, but I do think that there are sort of inspirational currents. So one story that hasn't had a lot of attention that I've sort of been watching percolate recently is that there's been a lot of stealing from armories and military bases. That's been happening recently. That was something that happened in the lead up to World War II, as well as violent fascist groups like the Silver Shirts and the Christian Front and others, not only recruited from the military and from the National Guard, but also used essentially insider threat people inside the military to steal U.S. military weapons for the use in what they hoped would be a violent overthrow of the U.S. government. And so that happened. That's happening now, very sort of quietly. It's only getting a little bit of attention. That happened there. That was in part what led Leon Lewis, who was a World War I veteran, to get other World War I veterans, German-American World War I veterans, to go infiltrate those groups to figure out what was happening. They could not get law enforcement interested in it because these guys proclaimed themselves to be anti-communists. And so therefore, law enforcement liked the idea of them.
Right.
They couldn't get law enforcement interested, and so they pursued it and pursued it and pursued it themselves. They publicized their findings. They ultimately went to U.S. Navy intelligence, which was willing to prosecute them, in part because it was military facilities that are being burgled in order to get these guys their weapons. So that sort of intrepidity by a self-styled civilian spy, I don't know that we've got. Yeah, I don't know that we've got that sort of with singular hero right now. But when I see people who are building apps and building online networks to watch what ICE is doing and to monitor effectively the secret police operations that we've got going right now, I see some of those same instincts sort of in the American character.
Yeah. You were saying they aren't the same. I mean, right now, for example, Trump, let's go right to this. Trump says he's looking to extend the 30-day federal takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police and could bypass Congress, declaring a national emergency. I guess he could decide what a national emergency is. His comments come as National Guard troops arrive in D.C. with 800 guards and 500 federal agents set to be deployed in total. They're often in places that are very loud, although they're over on 14th Street where they're being funneled with sandwiches. That guy.
A felony for hurling the sandwich.
I know. I love it. I'm like, I feel like I wish I had done that. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling all of this an authoritarian push, although she initially said the city could benefit from it. She's being a little bit quiet about it. U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, she of the box of wine, wrote in a Washington Post op-ed that she's working to overturn some local laws so juvenile offenders would be prosecuted. A lot of the stuff you wrote about was implicit. It was quietly being done, although the Silver Shirts, all these people appeared in Madison Square Garden. They had all kinds of rallies. it was very explicit, but nothing like, it wasn't the government doing this. Now he's also focusing his attention on DC's landscaping, saying we need to redo the grass with the finest grasses. I agree with that. I'm going to agree. We have shitty grass.
I think America can actually come together around the idea of fine grass.
Fine grass, yeah.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about what's happening here, because this is explicit. In the time you were writing about it, the government itself wasn't doing things like that, or it was in a way in certain areas, like concentration camps and things like that for the Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, fascist groups in the United States before World War II wanted an authoritarian takeover of our country in which there would not be the American system of government anymore. There would be a strongman leader who would run things at his own whim with autocratic capabilities and would serve the white Gentile population above all else and kick everybody else out of the country. That's what fascist groups before World War II wanted in this country, which is why they wanted us to not only to either not fight the Nazis or to fight with the Nazis rather than
and
to
they
go
didn't
over there
like
and fight them.
democracy explicitly. They talked about it. Lawrence Dennis did.
They thought democracy was decadent and it was a way
Liberals
for
and women, gays,
women and, well, minorities of any kind to have any say. Like they don't, these are folks who don't believe in sharing power with people different than them. They think that they should be able to have a say on their own terms of what happens, not only in government, but in everything. And so now in our generation, in our time, we have an elected authoritarian leader who doesn't just want to control the executive branch. He wants to control, universities, their curriculum and their admissions and their, student discipline policies. And he wants to decide what economists work at what banks. And he wants to control
Smithsonian
businesses. He wants to control the Smithsonian. He wants to control high school sports. He wants to control the legal profession. He wants to control
media,
what's on television and what's in the news. And guess what? Like this is what they were after. And this is a president who does not see bounds on the presidency set by democratic processes, but he also doesn't see bounds on the presidency set by what counts as government. He wants to autocratically rule the country in every aspect of the country, both to shut down the possibility of criticizing or opposing him, but also because he believes that he should run
Kennedy
everything.
Center,
that he should be handing out the Kennedy Center honors, and he should be administering the police force of Washington, D.C., and he should be choosing the CEO of Intel, and he should be setting the recipe for Coke. And that's what they were after.
And do you find this to be, are you more alarmed by any part of it, or is it's part of the same idea? And for people who don't know, the White House plans to review the Smithsonian Museum expedition's materials and operations before America's 250th anniversary next year. The administration sent a letter to the Smithsonian this week explaining how the museum content is in line with Trump's Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History executive order. And recently, the National Museum of American History removed a placard that mentioned Trump's 2 impeachments, which has since been replaced. Is there one thing, like, this is like a cornucopia of stuff for you to focus on. What do you look at? What do you think is the thing that troubles you the most, or is it in whole? Is it the takeover of the city, or the attempted takeover of the city, or is it the museum? I assume it's all of it, but is there something you find most disturbing?
Well, it's all of a piece in the sense that I guess I have 2 answers to this question. One is that what Trump is doing is so textbook.
It is.
Like, there's not anything that's very surprising about what he's doing. And we now know who he is and what his intentions are. There isn't going to be a big reveal. Oh, he has authoritarian inclinations for our country or intentions. Like, we now know who he is. He is Viktor Orban. He is Vladimir Putin. He is Duterte. He is Berlusconi. Pick your poison. They all do the same thing. Right. We're only lucky that Trump isn't taking his shirt off in photos. But so
Thanks, Rachel.
That to me, sorry, I just put that image in your head.
I just totally saw his chest.
Sorry.
It's like sad. Anyway.
Swayze.
He's not Swayze. I'd take this shit from Swayze, but not from this guy. But go ahead.
But because he's predictable, because he is playing
a role,
2 type and it is A type and it's a very noble thing. I feel like there's only so much value in focusing on every new thing he does, because it's predictable what he's going to do. We know what this is. It makes me more interested in the question of the country's durability and how we're responding and the strength of our institutions in standing up to it. Well, so that's one thing there. But the thing I'm most worried about is the military.
Meaning the takeover of the city, or...
Well, I mean, he's using the military to project force inward, domestically, everywhere. Immigration enforcement doesn't just look militarized. They're integrating with the military. They're building these immigrant prison camps with no due process, and a prison with no due process is a camp. They're building them on military bases. They've got hundreds of miles of territory in Arizona and New Mexico. In Texas, they're calling military zones, where they're giving U.S. active duty troops the authority to stop and search and arrest people on U.S. soil. He threw himself a military parade for his own birthday. They're using military flights, incredibly expensive military flights, inexplicably for deportation flights. We've just found out that they're considering building a new rapid reaction force where they've got 600 troops on 1 hour standby, 24 hours a day, to go deploy into American cities. They put the National Guard and the U.S. Marines in L.A., and now they've got the National Guard, and he's threatening active duty troops in D.C. I mean, he is reimagining the use of the U.S. military as his own Praetorian Guard, facing his critics and facing his citizens, and normalizing. He's already, in this many months, normalized the presence of American troops in American cities with us.
And when I think of any country I go to where there's troops on the streets, I'm always like, I'd like to get out of this country, right? That's it makes you feel. I just interviewed Jason Stanley, who you know from Yale, who left this country. He was written about propaganda and fascism. I'm sure you know him well. And one of the things he said is he's sort of a kind of a cloddish playbook of a fascist. And I was like, well, does it matter if he's clownish and cartoonish, if he's effective in some way? Do you find all this effective?
Well, he's doing it, right? I mean, the thing that makes him effective is not any genius on his part, or even any ambition or speed on his part. The thing that makes him effective is the cowardice and collapse of American institutions that should be saying no to him. Do you see any heroes emerging? Yes. The heroes that are emerging from not the leadership class, but the people. I mean, the fact that there's protests against Trump on every day of the week in every state in the country is important to me.
You featured that on your show quite a bit, which I thought was great.
Yeah. And I'm doing that not because I think that's what everybody's talking about, and I want to get in on that conversation. I recognize that it's not getting a ton of attention, but I do think that shows you that the people in this country, you look at the opinion polls and you look at the ongoing protests, especially the small protests in red states and stuff against him.
Or individuals, when someone's taking someone away, they start filming. I find those really powerful. Yes. Like some lady coming out of yoga, like suddenly saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" to this man. Yes. Which is interesting.
Exactly. And that instinct in the American people is really healthy and is unafraid and is uncowed and is repulsed by this. And that's why Trump has such terrible approval ratings. He's upside down, even with men, even with, with the way he's dropped with young people. It's a sort of a stunning drop. And that, to me, is very important. The crisis that we've got in our country is a crisis of elite cowardice. The law firms, the universities, the politicians, and the business leaders in particular.
Courageous, Rachel? I mean, I would make the argument they weren't. They're saying that universities were woke. I'm like, have you met a university president before this all happened? They hated those professors. They hated law firms. Hated those, pro bono people on their staff. And I don't know. I just never thought they were particularly courageous.
But they're big, prestigious institutions with a lot of capital and a lot of connections and a lot of money and a lot of people who have a lot of room to maneuver without ever putting themselves in real danger. And those are the people that are failing us. And I actually think that if we're going to kind of protest and try to put steel in the spines of people and try to appeal to conscience, which is what nonviolent direct action does, some of that protest should be probably usefully, strategically directed at the institutions that are failing, not just
one of the things Jason was saying is one of the things the civil rights things work is those people became empathetic given the visuals of civil rights, right? The hoses and everything else. And you've got to, he was wondering if the immigration raids will make everyone else who is comfortable angry enough or empathetic really enough in a lot of ways, if you think about it.
Yeah, but you need to see not just the rage, you need to see people standing up
Right.
against them. So what you remembered about that woman in the yoga clothes in the parking lot there yelling at those guys was not just what was happening to those guys that had inspired her to action. It was seeing her be courageous.
Even the
and
sandwich guy.
and unafraid. That stuck with you.
Joking aside, I was when he did that, I'm like, oh dear. And then I thought, well, good for him. Like, and I was talking about it with my wife was saying, what should I do now? Like, should I go throw a sandwich? Should I, get her myself a Tate. They're in front of Tate. That's the best part. Like, they're just like grab their sandwich and throw it at them. But what is the action you take? I think is a lot of people are trying to figure out of those people who become empathetic to what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the sandwiches deserve this. I think sandwiches deserve to be treated with respect, and that, like, I'm sure that guy, that was like probably a meatball sub, like with exactly the right kind of cheese and just the right, he probably had that scooped
he was so
out,
soft
which took a lot of that stroke at the subway.
I'm sorry, you shouldn't attack police, let me just say. Pivot does not encourage attacking police. But if you insist, a sandwich is probably the best.
No throwing anything at anybody.
Rachel and I do not recommend throwing sandwiches, though.
If only for the sake
only
of the
for the sake of the sandwich. It's like, let me have a bite before you throw that thing.
We've got one of the things that's different between now and what Americans were facing in the 30s and 40s is that we have the example of the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s to show the apogee, the moral apogee of what it means to take incredibly difficult action against incredibly violent, entrenched opponents and to win on the strength of your moral case. And that's a moral cornerstone of our country, and we would be remiss to not learn from that in this moment. There's not going to be a civil war in this country. There's not going to be a violent confrontation. All Trump wants is for somebody to, throw another sandwich or do something that they can consider to be a crime and use as a provocation. Nonviolent direct action gets the goods always, and it's our American inheritance, and it's the thing that will ultimately push them back. And also time. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, Trump's warning to Putin ahead of their Alaska getaway.
Support for Pivot comes from Quince. With fall right around the corner, refreshing your wardrobe for the season ahead might be top of mind. Quince nails it with luxury essentials that feel effortless and look polished and are actually affordable. Their styles are so versatile, perfect for layering and mixing. I find myself reaching for them again and again. They offer nice cashmere and cotton sweaters, washable silk tops, and classic denim pants. Their timeless styles would be great for when the weather changes. The best part, everything from Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. I've tried some of the stuff from Quince myself, and I have stolen, actually, Scott Galloway cashmere, and I'm really enjoying it. And it'll be better when it gets cold. I also have bought lots of their athletic clothes, and I'm actually wearing a Quince sports bra right now. The quality's excellent, feels great, it feels rich, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money, which is key. Elevate your fall wardrobe essentials with Quince. Go to quince.com/pivot for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINC.com/pivot to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/pivot.
Rachel, we're back. President Trump and Vladimir Putin are about to meet in Alaska, and Trump is warning that Russia will face, quote, very severe consequences if Putin doesn't agree to stop the war in Ukraine. The White House downplayed expectations for the summit earlier this week, describing it as a listening exercise. He's talking about feeling people out, which was relatively creepy in the Epstein zone.
Feeling out.
He might feel him up. That's grotesque. Trump also, you've already gotten like lots of pictures in my head, and I don't appreciate it. Trump also spoke with European leaders and Ukraine's President Zelensky ahead of the summit. European leaders asked Trump not to strike a unilateral peace deal, so gave him some key points of negotiations. Zelensky said he warned Trump that Putin was bluffing on pursuing peace, obviously. He's called this meeting Putin's personal victory. What are you looking for? I just had David Remnick on the last episode, and he said, as long as he doesn't fuck up or give anything away right away, it'll be a victory. Like if he has a second meeting, and he's been talking that way recently.
I mean, this is all just so embarrassing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon had that very good line where he was like, "Oh, listening and exercise, two of Trump's favorite things." Do you remember the red line? Obama and the red line with Syria.
The red
right?
line. You never
So this
have a
was
red line.
like 2012, I think it was. Obama gave a speech where he described Bashar al-Assad potentially using chemical weapons as a red line, that's how the United States would treat it. And then in 2013, Assad absolutely did that. And Obama responded by saying, all right, I'm going to Congress to get authorization for the use of military force against Syria. And Congress debated it a little bit, and then it kind of looked like it wasn't going to pass, and then it fell, and then they didn't do it. They did not pass the authorization for the use of military force. That went down in political commentary, common wisdom, as like, Obama was such a wuss. He blew it on that red line thing. That was such an embarrassment. First of all, Obama didn't do anything wrong there. He went to Congress for an authorization for the use of military force, which is how it works in our system.
Correct.
And it was Congress that blew it. But that supposed failure, which wasn't a failure at all, by Obama, 12, 13 years later, people still talk about that as like a nadir, a terrible thing about the Obama administration. Well, meanwhile, here's Trump. Wasn't it going to be like if by Friday the war wasn't over. It was going to be the end of days for Putin, and there was going to be sanctions, and there was going to be tariffs. Oh, that's the worst thing in the world. It was going to be all of this terrible stuff. And instead, what does Putin get? Putin gets a trip to Alaska. Go visit the former Russian Empire and a one-on-one meeting. Trump will fly as far as you're flying to come have a one-on-one, man-to-man summit with you. The first time that you've been in this country, except for the UN, since 2007, and we get to talk about the war in Ukraine without Ukraine here. Talk about a red line moment. I mean, I think it's. I'm just worried that we don't end up in the post press conference with Trump in his lap, or
giving away Alaska,
or like delicately like touching his hair, or like cupping his face, spooning him.
What would you consider a success? Is there no success here? It's already given away.
The success here would be if the U.S. government arrived at this summit, which has been put together on 4 days' notice, a bilateral summit between the American and Russian president. Yeah. If we arrived at this meeting and then somebody opened a door from a supply closet and Volodymyr Zelensky walked out and sat down and Trump said, "You guys talk, I'll be right outside this door." That would be a victory, right? But as if
I'd give him the Nobel Peace Prize for that.
Well, I don't know that they allow us to vote, but I mean, Trump is the right word here is lickspittle. He is so afraid of Vladimir Putin. He is so afraid of him. He will do absolutely anything. I mean, we've got a 35% tariff on Canada, and Russia has what percent tariff? Right. Russia is mysteriously missing from the whole tariffs on even uninhabited islands that only have penguins, but not Russia.
This guy.
And the way the media responds to Trump as if his word is his bond, right? Trump is explaining that he now has a new feeling about Putin, and he's very upset with Putin.
He might be lying.
He's very disappointed in him. He's really changed his tune. I think he's soured on Putin. Really? Right. Watch what he does, not what he says. He's literally in the man's pants.
Right.
And there's no distance here.
There's no distance between them. So you think just the fact that he's flying there is it's already given away the...
This is something that no American president has done in 18 years. In many countries in the world, if Vladimir Putin stepped foot on their soil, he'd be arrested and dragged off to The Hague. This is an abject humiliation for the United States of America and for the U.S. presidency that we will be reading about for 75 years.
So what is the best thing that could come out of this?
Short of Zelensky popping out of the supply closet?
Right.
What did the janitor say when he jumped out of the supply closet? Supplies! Sorry.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry.
What is that? That's not even a dad. That's a dad joke.
It's a bad dad joke. It's like a stepdad joke. Yeah.
anything good? Anything?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I mean, what the Ukrainians say is nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. And so if this is being negotiated, this would be like if you're like getting a divorce or something, and the person from whom you're getting a divorce is going through the court proceedings without you. Like, how do you think it's going to? How do you think your side of the divorce is? You think you're going to get your alimony? You think you're going to get your custody agreement? No, like this. There's nothing. There's nothing good about this. I will also say that Trump always, after he talks to Putin, although now he admits he talks to Putin without telling anybody that he's doing so, every time we know he talks to Putin, he comes out after those discussions and starts parroting a new Russian line.
Just like we're going to plow the boys under, right? Yes. Where it went from Goebbels to senators, U.S. senators.
Yeah,
things
he repeats, and he's absolutely he will just parrot whatever Putin tells him to say, which he has done. I mean, back to Helsinki, back to the very beginning, and he also adopts whatever position was last presented to him. And so in this case, he'll adopt whatever
Putin says. Have you ever thought of calling him on the phone, Rachel, yourself? There is a cell phone that he answers. Yeah,
I did speak to him on the phone once during the 2016 campaign. Which was funny. I was trying to get an interview with him. This is early in the primary process. And they had gone through this whole big, like, swearing me to secrecy thing that in order to get the interview, I needed to call him personally. And even the fact of the call had to be off the record. And they made us, like, swear that there was no there was no recording device. And then, like, going through all this rigmarole. And so then I call Rona, like, I have the appointed time. I get on the phone with him. I ask him to do the interview. And at the end of my conversation with him, he goes, "Well, you can air this. This was nice." I was like, first of all,
tape it.
This is off the record.
Right. I didn't tape it.
I can tell you now, I agreed to it being off the record, but because he said that, I can now tell you, Kara Swisher, today, that he said it was now, I was allowed to air it. And I was like, my dude, like, are you aware when you were in the media versus when you were having a phone?
He doesn't care. If it goes well, he wants it out there, right?
Yes.
If it goes, if it's a very good call and stuff like that. So you're not expecting anything here. It's going to be it's already a rollover.
No, this is a bad thing. The meeting itself is a bad thing. Vladimir Putin being invited to the United States of America to meet one-on-one with the American president is all I need to know, and that's a bad thing. There's nothing substantively that's going to come out of this meeting except for Trump getting more of his instructions.
I think he's going to give back Alaska. I'm telling you, we're going to lose Alaska. We're going to lose Alaska. They're going to trade Sarah Palin and something else. You can see Russia from her porch. Anyway, let's bring that one back. I'm going to move on to something totally different. The U.S. Supreme Court has officially been asked to overturn the 2015 decision that granted equal marriage rights to same-sex couples. If you remember Kim Davis, heinous Kim Davis is what I call her, the former Kentucky county clerk who was jailed for 6 days in 2015 for refusing to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple. She's filed an appeal in July for the compensation she was ordered to pay that couple. Davis is taking her case to the court on the grounds that Overturn v. Hodges, which established marriage equality, was wrongly decided and infringes on her First Amendment rights. Davis has been unsuccessfully appealing the order for years to lower courts. She's the only one withstanding to do this, from what I understand. I did predict an attack on marriage equality back in January. Let's listen to a clip. All they're doing is a naked grab for overturning the gay marriage Supreme Court decision, like they overturned Roe v. Wade. And it's very vulnerable. Two court justices, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, said it should be reconsidered. So we'll see. It's theater. It's theater, but they're going to try to do this. They're trying to get a case up there that will make it happen. Are you concerned about this at all?
Well, I'm sort of two minds about the decision. I feel like I agree with your prediction from January that they want to overturn. At least there are parts of the court that want to overturn it. I mean, remember, Obergefell was 5-4 decision, and now, and now the court is 6-3 in the direction that had been in the minority. And so I think they want to. But I also feel like the sort of legal common wisdom on this case, as I understand it, I'm not a lawyer, but the legal common wisdom is that this is not the case. That while Kim Davis is appealing to the Supreme Court her illegal actions in denying a marriage license because she says God told her to, she is in appealing that part of her case. She is also asking the court to overturn Obergefell, and this just doesn't seem like legally the right vehicle to do that. The court also doesn't have to take up any of this.
Take it all.
And even if they did take up the Kim Davis part of it, they don't have to address the Obergefell request in it at all. So I think yes, the anti-gay movement in this country senses it's got the wind in its sails. They've got a newly reactionary Republican Party on these issues that's getting really demagogic on these issues. And they think that they've got victories ahead. I just don't think this is the case by which they're going to do it. That said, I mean, they've been doing all sorts of stuff that isn't warranted or necessitated by the material that's being put before them. That's the whole shadow docket idea. Right. So this is a pretty radical court, and I don't really want to stand here plant 2 feet and say it's not going to happen, but it would be a weird way for them to do it if they were going to.
Weird way for them to do it. Well, I think they go through trans people and then to gay. Like ultimately, marriage really chapped their ass. They really did. A lot of these people, and I think that was the problem.
Still, like more than 2/3 of the country is in favor of same-sex marriage, which is a reversal from what it was when they decided it.
Right. But still, look at abortion, gun control, all that stuff has the 80-20 rule on so much stuff. There's so much stuff that has an 80-20. People are for it, and it doesn't matter.
That's part of the reason they don't like democracy is because they actually don't have the people with them on this stuff on which they're making some of the worst,
correct,
the largest advances, at least.
Yeah, I'm not getting gay married again. That's all I have to say. Anyway, good luck taking away my marriage. Honestly, it's so ridiculous. It's such a waste of time. All right, Rachel, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about what the women of the right are up to. Rachel, we're back with a quick update of the women on the right. Let's start with Katie Miller, wife of Stephen Miller, former employee of Elon Musk. She launched her own podcast, the Katie Miller Podcast, and kicking it off with a J.D. Vance interview, that charmer. Now let's listen to some of the hard-hitting journalism happening over there.
Oh, God.
If you could only eat one condiment for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One condiment?
Yeah.
Does barbecue sauce count?
Yeah.
Okay, barbecue sauce.
Not mayonnaise?
No, mayonnaise is like, in low doses is good, but it's kind of, like I had a buddy who used to eat French fries with mayonnaise. I thought that was disgusting.
It's the only thing my husband eats.
With French fries or like period?
Period.
Okay, wow, I didn't realize.
He's only a mayonnaise guy.
Okay, I learned something about Stephen I didn't know.
Yeah, it's whatever.
God.
Oh, Kara. Why did you put that in my head?
Because you put naked Donald Trump in my head.
Oh, my God. I don't want to think about mayonnaise at all. And I don't want to think about Stephen Miller at all. Now Stephen Miller and mayonnaise are the same when they're on. Oh, my God.
What's your favorite condiment?
Oh, God. Whatever the opposite of this moment is my favorite thing.
Oh, my God. Is she going to steal our thunder? Good God.
So why does Katie Miller have a podcast?
There you go. That's the question. I think that's rhetorical.
What was Katie Miller doing for Elon Musk?
I don't know. I'm not
Wasn't she working?
She was working from PR, presumably. There were other comments about their relationship, but allegedly.
Was she working for Tesla or
she was working for
Doge?
Like him personally? No, she worked for Doge. Remember, she was the Doge lady. And then when he was knocked out, she went with him, and that was the big what's happened here, and because obviously Miller is the most significant player in that administration at this point.
Yeah.
And then she's left. She stopped doing stuff for him. She had to get out because she knows where her mayonnaise is buttered. So
I'm going to sue. I've been irreparably damaged.
With mayonnaise.
I want a temporary restraining order from any more mayonnaise talk out of you.
Anyway,
Kara
she has a podcast. Everyone has a podcast. There's all these ladies of the right that are now pushing. There's this whole movement of ladies of the right. She's like, we need to be heard. I'm like, you need not to be heard. You've been heard enough.
I love just the idea of ladies of the right is also great because the whole Lord of the Rings thing was so weird. But I think that if we could change the acronym so it was Ladies of the Right rather than Lord of the Rings, so name all our companies after that.
They're getting into podcasting, and some are more successful. Like I said, Megyn Kelly is very popular, but there's a whole movement of these people. They feel like, I got a microphone, I can say whatever I want. Like it is a movement of people.
It's not specific to them though. I feel like everybody, every homeowners association and PTA has a podcast now too.
Yeah,
it's just it's the way that people are. It's the blog.
It's the
Remember when
blog.
everybody had a blog?
Yeah.
It's the blog of today
Yeah.
that everybody has a
Well,
microphone.
she's sort of a house organ for these people. So they can come on and say adorable things and it'll get, so to speak, eaten up like mayonnaise.
Did you listen to more of the podcast than
Yes,
the
I
mayonnaise
did.
clip?
I did.
Does
I
she
listened.
have an
No, it was literally
appealing
that was the highlight of it. The mayonnaise was the highlight. It was sort of
Ugh.
like, so what do you do for fun? Like it was painful. It was
Do you
painful.
remember in the first Trump term, when he
Mhm.
appointed Jared to a job at the White House? And then
Yes,
it was
I
like,
recall.
Jared's in charge of Middle East peace. Jared's in charge of, Jared's in charge of everything. Jared's in
Right.
charge of COVID. He's in charge.
Right.
And as he was accruing all of these jobs and more jobs and more jobs and more jobs, Jared
Mhm.
Kushner was starting to really loom as maybe this is the person who's actually kind of running the federal government.
Mhm.
Jared Kushner, and like lots of things are being ascribed to him and dark things being ascribed to him. And he's really seen as the power behind the throne, especially post-Bannon and everything.
Mhm.
And then it occurred to sort of the collective mindset at some point that like nobody had ever actually heard from Jared.
Right.
And then they rolled him out and they had him do a White House press briefing or White House
Right.
press conference statement at some point. And everybody's thinking like, Jared Kushner is the man. Jared Kushner is the power. He's the Sith Lord here. And he walks up to the microphone and he says, "Hello, everybody." He was like, open his mouth, and it was like, oh no,
Right.
all illusions have gone. There's something about his presentation,
I
in
do
particular
remember
his
that.
voice, that was like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about this guy. I
But you're
felt the same
worried
way about Ron DeSantis and his much
Sure.
heralded presidential campaign. It was really on
looks
paper, it
count.
looks fantastic, and then he walks up to the microphone. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. Looks and sound. Well, do you remember what's his name? Howard Dean had the same problem, right? Like there is an element of looks and presentation that matters to people.
Yeah, although with Howard Dean, I think that was a little bit of a. It was the scream, right? That
It was a scream.
and it was
bad.
just like a
Go back and
weird
listen.
pickup. It was a weird pickup thing, but he didn't otherwise speak like a weirdo.
No,
I think
no,
that
not
he
at
got
all.
he
No.
got Mumdani'd. He got
Yes,
Democrats were scared of him because he
Mumdani's
was
doing pretty well getting
yeah.
him.
Well, Howard Dean was for a while too, but Democrats got all scared because he actually
Yeah.
had class analysis.
Right, that's true. That's a fair point. So you're not worried about Katie Miller taking a show from you, right?
Oh,
No.
okay. Yeah. Are you?
Still haven't answered the condiment issue, Rachel.
The weird thing about me and condiments is that I put mustard on my eggs.
Oh, that's okay.
I like things with vinegar in them, and
Okay.
mustard has vinegar in it. And
Yeah.
so when I get like a bacon, egg, and cheese,
That's okay.
I put mustard and hot sauce
That's
on it.
acceptable. And by the way, many people in Belgium eat mayonnaise with, many people in Europe eat mayonnaise with fries.
There aren't that many people in Belgium, though.
Well,
let's
and yet
be
they
straight about
enjoy
this.
their mayonnaise. We're not even going to get into aioli. All right. Some more ladies of the right. Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene are beefing. In the last week, Laura Loomer claimed the Trump White House can't stand Marjorie Taylor Greene in a deposition in a lawsuit against Bill Maher. By the way, please go read that whole deposition. It's one wacky thing after the next. Marjorie Taylor Greene suggested Laura Loomer was bankrolled by Israeli intelligence, and Loomer is called MTG a rabid dog and a lying fake Christian whore. I don't think we could do any better for that. What is happening? I think a bigger question is on the right, what happens post-Trump? Because there will be eventually a post-Trump, unless they weekend at Bernie's this guy. What happens? Because there seems to be so many fissures in this gang of like incompetence
One of the
and
things,
malcontents.
I've done a lot of work in the past few years on like the far right and the far right in American modern history and what they've done and who they are and how they network with mainstream and elected right-wingers and stuff.
And they're good at it.
Yeah. And it's always been much more seamless between the far right and the center right than it is between the far left and the mainstream left. But one of the things that has limited the ascendance and the power and the sustainability of the very far right in the past is that they're all crooks and mean girls, and they steal from each other and get in fistfights and set each other's houses on fire and sleep with each other's wives and husbands. And there's so much infighting that they can't keep it together for more than a single generation ever. And that's true in everything from the American Nazi Party, where we have George Lincoln Rockwell assassinated by one of his own people, to the Liberty Lobby, which was a Holocaust denial neo-Nazi organization that was very integrated with the elected right in the Reagan era, where they descended into incredible like fistfights and smashing each other over the head with iron bars. Like there's all this stuff. And it always goes that way. And right now, we do have, with an authoritarian in the White House, we do have greater and more scary, more powerful integration between the very far right and the right than we've ever had before. But it doesn't expunge that dynamic, which I think always exists on the far right, which is you're Israeli intelligence. No, you're Israeli intelligence. And you're a whore and you're a, you know, I mean,
a lying
that's
fake Christian whore. That's the name of my band, but go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would
Actually, the name of my band is Pregnant Women Smoking, but go ahead.
I would buy merch from either,
Yeah.
even though I'd be too
So
socially
you
awkward
feel like a
to go
crack
to the
up is
show.
inevitable in that regard, without the organizing glue of Donald Trump.
I just feel like the constant cracking up. Like I feel like constant warring and cracking up, and you know, they're polygraphing each other in the defense secretary's office, right? Like
and they're all the same people. They're all on the same side.
And you know, and Bannon is out there denouncing, you know, Bannon and Musk, or they're going to kill each other, and these guys are fractious by nature because they're conspiratorial and purist, and they're not awesome when it comes to rational argument and compromise, and so they're always denouncing and beating one another to death, and I don't think that will change, and I think that's to all of our benefit.
Right.
And I hope they never change.
Right, because they will continue to do so. Yeah, you're going to see more of that no matter how I agree with you. I'm always like, the minute Trump leaves the picture, it degenerates really rather quickly.
The conspiratorial right is inherently fractious. And that's part of why they're a bad bet for governance, because they're constantly schisming against each other.
Well, they're bomb throwers by nature, right? They're shit stirrers and breakers of things. They're sort of like toddlers, almost like the tech bros. But you know what I call tech bros now? Technically broken. I keep repeating that until it catches on. You can use it anytime, Rachel. Please, you'll popularize it if you will. Technically broken. All right, Rachel, one more quick break, and we will be back for our last segment on predictions. Okay, you have to make a prediction. I can make one too, but I would like you to first.
You go first?
Well, but I'm living for two things. I think Gavin Newsom's done very well with his tweeting of Trump. Fake, you know, he's mimicking Trump, which is really great. But I'm really enjoying the AI boys fighting. Elon Musk and Sam Altman are going at it again. Musk alleged that Apple engaged in antitrust violations, making it impossible for AI companies other than OpenAI to reach the top of the App Store. Musk says XAI will take immediate legal action. Altman responded to a claim saying, "This is a remarkable claim, given what I have heard alleged that Elon does to manipulate X to benefit himself and his own companies and harm his competitors and people he doesn't like." And Musk responded saying, you know, you had 3 million responses to this, and I have many more followers, and I didn't have nearly as many. And Sam Altman delivered the fantastic, and only gay people can do this, slap, which was skill issues. I predict this war is going to get worse because I think that Elon will do anything. There is a weird anger that he has towards Sam Altman, who he used to be not aligned with. They did OpenAI together, and he will not rest until he is somehow sullied. You can have your opinions about Sam Altman all you want, or any of these tech people, but this is going to get, I think, worse as Grok continues to crater. A founder just left, and so Elon's going to sort of focus his attention away from Trump, although I do think he did start the Epstein thing, and continue to like go at anything that has to do with OpenAI and try to kill it.
Does Musk have stick-to-itiveness problems, though? Does he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. He is like what's a hummingbird? He
flits.
He flots. There's a song. What is that? It's in from Sound of Music. It's a Sound of Music song. It goes back to Julie Andrews, the villainess.
I was just gonna say, we're back to Julie Andrews.
No, the villainess in that is my favorite character of all time, the Baroness.
Oh.
The Baroness. Remember her?
The Baroness.
The Baroness. She was
Susan
the blonde.
Susan watches The Sound of Music like 3 times a year.
As she should.
Yeah, I go get on the exercise bike.
Do you? You don't watch it? It's such a brilliant thing.
It is, anyway. But 3 times a year, really?
You know, there's an idea that it's racist because it's anti-gay because all the Germans are gay coding, and all the Austrians are like hikers or something like that. I just heard that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Rolf is just an asshole. He's not gay. For goodness sake.
Also, there can be gay assholes. It happens.
I agree. Oh, hello. Nazis had a whole division of them. Like, they did get killed, as you know, as you well know, as a studier of the Nazis. They did kill Ernst Röhm and his band of gays before they got into power. Anyway,
they didn't call them the band of gays.
The band of gays, mean gays.
It sounded better in the German.
I know. There's way more mean gays than you realize. Okay, let's hear a prediction from you.
Okay, I have a couple of things that are just like a heads up in terms of things that I think are going to get more important.
Okay.
One is the U.S. Attorney's scandal. So this started in Albany, Northern District of New York, and then New Jersey with Alina Habba, and then in California, and then in Las Vegas. Trump is, it would appear to be illegally installing U.S. attorneys. And U.S. attorneys doesn't sound like that big a deal, but these are the people who prosecute federal crimes in these states and districts. And there's a real question as to whether or not it's possible to have federal law enforcement legally in any of these states where he's effectively illegally installed these U.S. attorneys. So this is a slow burn story, but it's going to become a bigger one because he's trying something that isn't working. And it's going to result in a confrontation with the courts and with federal
Which it
district
has
judges.
in New Jersey with Alina
It has
Habba.
already. And that's going to break one way or the other. And Trump it's just worth watching there because that could be an important constitutional moment. I would say it's also really worth watching Trump's threat that he wants to redo the census. And again, census sounds boring, but there is a universe in which Trump is worried that he's going to lose the House in the midterms in 2026. And so he says, okay, we need a new census because actually the last census, I'm nullifying it because it had immigrants in it and therefore it doesn't count. Therefore, all the congressional districts nationwide that were set by that last census, those are no longer in effect. Therefore, we cannot have the 2026 midterm elections the way we're supposed to because those congressional districts are illegal and we'll have to delay it. I mean, it's a sort of doomsday scenario in terms of the technical part of our democracy and continuing to have elections. But that census part of it is a key piece. So those are worth
paying attention
watching.
to. Of course, he's going for the census.
It's going for the census, but it's a way to go for elections.
Right.
And then
over under on how 50-50, 40-30, what is
I don't know. I mean, I think that they've floated the let's have a new census thing in part to see what the reaction to it is. And people have treated it like that's weird or that's like a technically infeasible thing. Hey, guess what? He doesn't actually want a new census. He
just wants to slow it down. That's a very good point. It's not to get a new census.
Don't assume any good faith on the part of these arguments. The takeover of D.C. is not about crime. The attempt to nullify the census is not about the quality of the census. All of these things are all about what everything he does is for, which is to accrue more power and to make it more dangerous and difficult to oppose him or criticize him.
And slow down the possibly inevitable, which is his defeat.
Yeah. And so that's what one potentially positive thing to look for is that I do think the mRNA funding decision has to be reversed. I think that was, I think they blew it. I think RFK Jr. blew it in terms of the announcing the cutoff of mRNA vaccine funding. mRNA technology, it would be like us opting out of penicillin, right? I mean, it just doesn't.
Did. Right. Yeah. Did you see that thing, the Washington Post, which is the new House organ for press releases from the Trump administration? The opinion section ran a piece by why we tabled mRNA.
And we tabled mRNA funding because the American people, for some reason, have suspicions and they don't trust mRNA. Says, right. Trump just put a guy in the health department who says that Wi-Fi gives you leaky brain, says that HIV doesn't cause AIDS and that COVID was genetically engineered to spare the Jews. Yeah, I wonder why people have weird ideas about vaccine technologies.
There you go.
It's, I actually think the mRNA decision is bad enough, and the that pushback in the Washington Post is part of the reason, I think, actually, that they are going to have to reverse it.
Oh, no, the Post didn't push back. They published a positive piece by the guy who did it.
Yeah, the op-ed. But that op-ed was so weak. If that's the argument for why you're doing it, they feel the need to make the argument. The argument is
fair
risible.
Point. That's a fair point. The Post
and
also...
it's such important technology.
They also had an editorial. It's such a heinous public. David and I talked about this week, but saying that, hey, maybe the DC needs more crime fighting. Like, I nearly walked over there and slapped them. I just was like, I need to now go down there and slap them at this point.
Turns out having a billionaire running stuff doesn't make it good.
Technically broken, Rachel. I thought actually your prediction was going to be that you were going to the UFC fight at the White House. Oh, well, I was wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Not unless they're going to use me as a prop, like a chair.
Oh, yeah.
They're breaking a chair over somebody's head.
Yeah. You'd be a great UFC fighter. You'd be a great wrestler.
Yeah. Remember, I'm taller than people expect.
That's true.
I'm
you
noodly.
Would slap the shit out of people, I think. Anyway, I really appreciate you doing this. I'm enormous. Besides someone, I've gotten to know you a little bit. I think you're a wonderful person, but you're doing God's work, I think. And I think people don't realize how funny you are and everything else and how substantive you. Please read her books, all of them. They have changed my life in a lot of ways. I read stuff I didn't know, and I'm a very big student of history, both ultras. And is there another season of Ultra coming?
There is a new podcast coming. It is not a season of Ultra, but for fans of Ultra, you will find a lot that you like.
Great. That's really good stuff I didn't know, and I knew a lot of stuff. And Prequel is a wonderful book, I have to say. And I hope you're still working on that play with Tony Kushner, or the movie.
Screenplay for a movie of based on Ultra. Yes.
There's so many great characters. I'm trying to figure out. Don't tell me because I don't want to know. But there's so many amazing characters, both heroic and evil, that are really quite astonishing. Like that woman who dressed up at the sedition trial. What's her name? Doris or...
Oh, the woman who wore the nightgown?
Yeah, the nightgown.
Who put on the silky nightgown and then did the Nazi salute.
Salute.
Oh, yes.
What an incredible... These people are just astonishing. And there's mystery and everything else. Anyway, everybody read it. They should. That's the part of... I love your show, but that stuff I just adore. I think it's amazing.
Kara Swisher, I'm very thankful for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to read us out. We want to hear from you. Send us your questions about business tech or whatever's on your mind. Go to nymag.com/pivot to submit a question for the show or call 855-51-PIVOT. Okay, that's the show. Thanks for listening to Pivot. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week. Again, thank you, Rachel, and I'll read us out. Today's show was produced by Lara Naaman, Zoë Marcus, Taylor Griffin, and Kevin Oliver. Ernie Enderjot engineered this episode. Nishat Kurwa is Vox Media's executive producer of podcasts. Make sure to follow Pivot on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for listening to Pivot from New York Magazine and Vox Media. You can subscribe to the magazine at nymag.com/pod. We'll be back next week for another breakdown of all things tech and business. And Rachel, a jar of mayonnaise is on the way.
Thanks, Kara. So gross.